Let's do Tim Burchett. So this is Tim Burchett leaving the hearing on September 9th, and he's talking about he's being asked some questions by Matt Laszlo, and he gives some really interesting answers about what he knows.
Who knows how long, and that we, we think they're coming in from way out. Maybe they did millennia ago, but they're here and they're in these deep water areas, and that's why. I mean, like we say, we know more about the face of the moon than we do what's going on there. And we have a higher propensity of sightings around these 5 or 6, I believe, deep water areas. And so, to me, it just it creates a question there. And then when we have naval personnel telling me that we have these sightings and that there's these underwater craft they're chasing that are doing hundreds of miles an hour, and the best we've got is something that does maybe just a little under 40 miles an hour. So I got a lot of questions about that stuff, and I mean,
that's incredible. I mean, seriously, that's a pretty incredible clip.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Like we've come a long way.
That's a voted in member of our government talking about like deep sea possible bases and NHI coming out of the oceans. That's incredible.
Do you think he's spent a lot of time with Tim Gallaudet, or do you think he's been exposed to some extra stuff as well?
I think both.
Yeah,
I think both.
I think Gallaudet is just like the public face of the Navy stuff, and there's a lot of Navy people that are already talking to Congress people. And
this is a serious question. Do you think he's read the 4chan whistleblowers story? Because that's all about USOs.
I bet
there's a chance.
My guess is that he's not read it, but I bet someone has talked to him about it. I bet the idea has been put in his head by somebody.
Yeah. And there are incidents too that have happened inside submarines that people don't really know about them. But for example, Rich Dolan, his book on USOs, talks a lot about these incidents. And I would guess that Tim Burchett and also Burleson talks about an incident that was described to him that is kind of like the Abyss movie.
Yep.
And
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that happens related to that. So I think that why he's talking about it so matter-of-factly is because there's a lot of trained observers from the Navy who have told him about this stuff.
The Abyss, I talked about it on Wednesday, and it is for people who are younger and may not remember that movie. Not only is it one of James Cameron's best movies, but at the time when they made it, it was one of the most complicated movies ever to make. Most of it was shot underwater in gigantic tanks. They had one in SeaWorld Orlando, and then somebody just told me in a message the other day where the other one is. But it was even bigger. And they built this, all the sets were built in the tanks, and then they submerged them underwater. And they had all underwater rigs, and they're shooting this whole thing. And the movie is about a submarine full of nuclear ICBMs that goes down in the ocean, and the only people who can access it are working on this underwater drilling rig that's kind of an experimental rig. So the Navy sends in a SEAL team, and they go down to this rig, and the corporation that owns the rig, they're told, like, you need to assist the Navy in this recovery operation. And so the SEALs are there to get the warheads out of this submarine and recover those. And as all this is going on, there is a non-human intelligence that's monitoring all of this, and it starts to interact with the situation, and it's beautifully done. It was some of the early CGI effects from the late 1980s for the water beings, and it's just really, really well done. And what's interesting about the aliens is that when you see what they look like, it does match up actually a lot with what you kind of see in that Batista video. Kind of looks like that.
Yep. These iridescent, like beautiful, like fluorescent neon light beings at the bottom of the ocean. And the craft that comes up at the end of the movie with all the battleships on it, on the deck of it,
Mhm.
Also reminds you of the story that we've heard about that thing coming up and pulling the warhead down, the thing the size of an island that comes out of the ocean. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
When the
Yes.
guys are trying to retrieve an actual warhead, like the exact fucking story.
And they have to send Ed Harris down to this. They're so deep that to get where they have to go, for him to make contact. I don't want to spoil the movie, but he has to. They use this. I think it was experimental at the time. I don't know if this has turned out to be a real thing or not. But it was so cool. They had him fill his lungs with this oxygen liquid that he could breathe liquid, and so he's in this suit, and that way he could go down to the deeper depths and under pressure. And it's like the SEALs had this experimental technology that they were using, and they talk about it in the movie.
It was like amniotic
A little
fluid.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just, if you know anything about James Cameron and his approach to filmmaking, you know, he's like very interested in real deep water exploration. Like he fucking built that sub and went down to the bottom of the ocean himself. I mean, this guy's intense. And that movie hits a lot of the beats that we're seeing today. I think that's really interesting. And I don't think it's necessarily accidental.
Close Encounters in the Abyss are two pretty incredible movies to watch if you kind of want to have a sense of what might be.
I think it's safe to say that him and Spielberg have been told some stuff.
Yep.
Yes, I think you're right. I want to ask you guys about this Leslie Kean thing. Have you heard this clip that's going around? This came from was it Red Panda Koala?
Let's go. No.
About Leslie Kean's private dinner and what was discussed?
No.
Yeah, I asked about that, and she apparently she denies that she talked about anything related to the end of the world at that dinner. I'll just say that. But
please fill us in. What's going on here?
Okay, take a look at this clip.
Bring it in,
It's
boys.
only about a minute and 40 seconds. So here we go. This is Red Panda talking, and he'll explain.
The movers and shakers, right, on the like second string, like some of the bigger podcast hosts, some of the bigger people putting out media, documentary filmmakers, right? They have these after events where they'll have dinners and whatnot. And I'm not saying every single one is like this. And again, I'm not going to name who it is, so I know it's
I think James Fox is one of those
but
people.
somebody who I trust,
For sure.
and especially because I saw the immediate effect on their behavior and their way of thinking, said that after one of these events, they were all at Leslie Kean's house, and basically Leslie Kean told them that all of these UFOs people are seeing is NHI coming back to basically witness the end of the world. There's nothing we can do about it, and the governments all know about it, and they're just kind of waiting till it happens. And my friend, our friend, it's actually everyone on here's friend. I just don't know if you know exactly French we're talking about right now. I know Doomer does. He, I just kind of now you know it's a guy. He was really shocked by this because like. It wasn't just Leslie Kean there too. Apparently there were some other like high profile UFO people there. I don't think like Lou or anyone was there, but some other like huge big names, maybe some that are probably going to be in this too, right? Who were there, and just the setting with which this person received this information. And again, this is where you have to be careful too, because it's like cult stuff, right? There's like a whole ritual. You're at the after event of this big conference, and you guys are all here, and now you're going to hit you with this information, but. This person took it really seriously and was like, no, they all believe this. And like, they were shocked. They almost wanted to leave the field. They were like in a really crazy mental state.
She has, I like her quite a bit. And she's someone who I would say I trust what she says. But
She's alluded to this stuff before, hasn't she?
She had a very cryptic interview a few years ago just saying like, I think what's coming is not very good. And, things that we take for granted may not be a reality at some point in the near future.
That was with Kurt Chai-Mongol.
Yeah. Theories of everything. She goes, we're not going to have access to a lot of the things we take for granted. And he there's like an awkward pregnant pause. And then he goes like electricity.
On Kurt Chai-Mongol's show, there was an awkward pause. What?
You don't say.
The joke. The guy is an absolute legend.
He's a monster. And he comes... Favorites. He handles it he asked very direct questions in the face of a very like cryptic answer, and I thought it was just that's what makes it even weirder, right? It's like listening to you feel like you heard something you weren't supposed to hear, but she basically says I just don't think much more. He goes, it's at the end of this 2-hour interview and they're wrapping up, And he says, kind of as an offhand remark, just sort of to ease out of the conversation, he's like, so what do you have coming up? What are you working on? What's next for you? And I'm paraphrasing, but that's more or less how he has. And she just goes, well, I don't really think more than a few years ahead. So I got a new book I'm working on, and that's about it. And he goes, he says something to respond to that. And she gets into this weird groove where she's like, yeah, I just think things are going to get really bad in the next few years. And we're not going to have access to things that we take for granted. And he goes, like electricity. And she goes, like a lot of things that you're used to. And then she totally changes direction and goes off in a different way. And it's just a really weird moment.
I mean, there's a lot of things happening right now that support that, but they don't
Absolutely.
necessarily have to do with NHI. I mean, I don't know if they do, but not necessarily.
Well, I think you could say that. I think it's safe to say that the world feels less stable now than at any other time in my lifetime. I mean, how about you guys?
100%.
Same.
Like, I think we all feel that, right? There are all kinds of different ways that this thing could go sideways, and it's hard to imagine that none of those things happen at some point. Like, we don't cross some boundary where something takes place. There is an uptick in UAP activity. It does kind of correlate with all of the chaos that's going on.